Other questions from board members? Thank you very, very much for your presentation. I would just make this comment. I think back 12 years ago or more when the culture in California community colleges was that kids came in, they took classes, they tried to get together to transfer. We sometimes refer to it as the cafeteria style of going to school, where you take one of those and you take one of those and maybe have two of those because those were sweet or rich or you like them or whatever. And the transformation that's gone on over that period of time, I think around the idea of student success and the importance of student success as opposed to just access is extraordinary. The student success legislation that our own Senator Alan Lowenthal carried, then there was this 2010 ADT, the Student Transfer Achievement Reform Act, and yet because this was such a culture change, because this was such a, we don't do it that way, I don't know how to do it that way. When I came on this board 12 years ago, when somebody said articulation, I tried to speak better and learned relatively quickly that that meant, does this class line up with this class, line up with this class? And oh, by the way, if you can do that across the state, then what you can get is an ADT, and now everybody's doing that. We still have a long way to go, but what's extraordinary to me is that we're doing it, and that a lot of that stuff has been not pushed aside, but conquered or worked through, and it's everybody's singing from the same hymnal now, and that is, we got to get our students through, we got to get those seats opened up, so that more students can come in. We want them to experience the success of all those things. And it's not perfect. It probably will never be perfect, but the change is extraordinary. And it's a real cultural change, and we want to thank you for all that work that you're doing. Thanks.
Thank you.
Great, thanks.
Might I just add, you have two ladies there that are 100% committed to curriculum and moving us forward in a way that probably we haven't in the past, but I have great hopes for our transfer numbers going up as they continue their hard work. So thank you, Ken and Michelle.
Yes, very much so. Trustee Kellogg.
You actually just gave a good lead-in, and I didn't know where to insert because we just had now with the Lead Academy, and then this. President Otto mentioned about 12 years ago, a different world, but I just, and I walked around, I asked a question because I'm pretty sure I knew the answer, but I want to make sure. Things that are going on in this college, some are, we're watching it on a statewide level, but there are many things taking place right here at Long Beach City College that are unique to the entire system. And I bring that up because Trustee Otto is very involved with the CCLC, Community College League of California, as I am, and the area I work on is sort of trying to introduce innovative ideas to the other community colleges. And when you talk to the other community colleges, they have a tendency to say, oh yeah, we're unique. That's an overused word. To the point where one time I was listening to a presentation by a community college talking about the unique program they have that we started about 5 years before. The point is the Lead Academy and items like this are so critical. And our next item with our construction bond, many colleges have construction bond programs. But I really wanted to, in my role with the Community College League, is things like the Lead Academy to introduce these type of programs. Since we have someone formerly from San Diego, they have professional development. They actually have some great programs there. But to introduce these ideas, it is so unusual, maybe it's not the best word, but what we do here, what you all do here, you have to realize that Long Beach City College, how it's viewed in the system in California and throughout this nation, is held in very high esteem because of things you do like this. Somebody who in academic world, with the curriculum, well, that has a lot to do with how we are doing a better job here. So the point was where I could say thank you, and these ideas, trying to present them as hopefully Jerome got a lot of those on the speakers, because those three speakers what I would like to condense that and present that to one of the conferences in the future for innovative ideas, because no one could say it any better than those three speakers did about what the LEAD Academy is and how unique it is, and presenting other ideas. But it's amazing what we do here, and all of you are part of that and make it so special. And as President Otto mentioned, so many changes have happened in higher education in general, but that doesn't mean it always happens. It should happen, but all of you are doing things that are just absolutely remarkable. And the LEAD Academy is one, the things we're doing with our curriculum, with our construction bond. And so it's just, as you sit here and you listen to it, it makes you very proud of what's going on in higher education in general, but more importantly, what's going on here. Superintendent President Oakley said it at a meeting, and he says it a lot, about people sometimes don't understand how good we are here at Long Beach City College and what we do. And sometimes that you have to stop and look at what you've done. And all I can say is you should be very proud of what you've done here, because I know I'm proud just representing the college in my capacity as a trustee. But it's just remarkable sitting here and watching all the success stories take place. It is not typical of community colleges. And so it just was listening to it, just a great opportunity to say thank you and job well done. Thanks, President Otto.
Trustee Archuleta.
I just have one last question, and not one that needs to be answered right now, but one that's, I guess, for research and sort of food for thought. And just with all the ADTs, just wondering the impact, because obviously what should be happening is that we're seeing an increase in the number of students that are transferring to the CSU. Hopefully that's the number one outcome. But secondly, what impact is this having for transfer to the UCs and maybe to the private institutions? And then I think what's also important is for us to actually look at if with the ADTs, are we increasing the number of students that are actually transferring with a degree versus the number of students that are just transferring without the degree? Because I know that is an issue that we were trying to, as a state and community college system, we've been trying to address that issue of students completing their degree. And is this having that impact? And so I think if we can delve a little bit more into that, data to find out, and, if this is indeed happening, then we can, better plan, I think. But more importantly, how is this impacting? And I know that the UCs are also coming on board, hopefully in the near future, to develop something similar as what we have, the transfer degrees with CSU. But up to now, what is the impact? Because we're going now, this is what, the 5th year of ADTs, right? 4th or 5th year. So what impact has that had on the transfer and application process to the UCs?
Perhaps we could have our superintendent president talk to somebody on the Board of Regents of the UCs to see if we could hurry that program along. I want to compliment the board on the kinds of questions that they're asking. It's very important for us to educate ourselves about these things, and both Trustee Zia and Trustee Archuleta are asking great questions about what's going on, and indicated an understanding and a desire to understand these things, and at a level that will help us all. So thanks. So without further ado, let's move on to 4.2, which is the Citizens Oversight Committee Annual Report for 2015. And I see Elaine McDaniel here, who's the president of the Oversight Committee. Welcome. We're anxious to get your report.
Oh, welcome and thank you, and good evening to the board and to President Oakley. My presentation is going to be much, much shorter. It is with my honor that I present to you the Citizens Oversight Committee Annual Report for 2015. And the reason I say it's with my honor, because not only is it chock full of all the projects that have been completed and are ongoing, but it's also telling you that of the 2 audits we had a performance audit and a financial audit, and both were clean. There are no findings, and that is an honor for me, and I know for our Citizens Oversight Committee, because they look pretty carefully into what we're doing, what we're watching, and how the money is being spent. So I present that to you, and I want to tell you that your Oversight Committee is doing a great job. Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much. Any questions from board members? This is an action item.
I have a comment.
Actually,
So, Elena sat down. You don't need to get back up there, Elaine. I just wanted to thank you and praise the members of the Citizens Advisory Oversight Committee for all your time and the hard work that you put into this effort, this capacity on behalf of our college district. And I also want to praise our staff for doing such a good job, and Marjorie for the impressive construction activity that we have here. I don't know anyone that I meet that doesn't comment on how beautiful our campus is, and I just wanted to thank you and our staff. That's all I have.
Great, thank you. I would entertain a motion to do what we need to do to this report. I think it's an action item.
Yes, sir.
By Trustee Archuleta, seconded
Second.
by Trustee Baxter had already done that.
You just don't like my seconds, Trustee Otto. Maybe I need to bell it out a little bit more.
You know, I think you're either hard of hearing or really loud, and so you don't not hear what Trustee Baxter had
No,
said.
I didn't say a word.
She didn't say.
And my apologies, I thought you said, one second.
No.
Wait,
Oh, you just failed to listen.
So Trustee Zia gets the second on this. You know, there's no, I've gone through Robert's Rules of Order, and there's no legal effect of a second of any kind whatsoever. It's about the motion, but if this is important, we'll make sure that we get these recorded as accurately as possible. So,
so, I just have one question.
pardon?
I just have a quick question. The building at the building on Pacific Coast campus, the one that when I was there a week ago, how about the alphabet soup on them all? We got to start calling them different. Is it the GG building? Mm-hmm. Okay, it looks beautiful, but when is that open and actually being okay?
Yes, it is open. We're open for business, and we will have a ceremony honoring it sometime soon.
Okay.
We're looking for a date.
Okay, and no, it looked absolutely beautiful. So good job.
So it's been moved and seconded that we approve the report of the Citizens Oversight Committee, their annual report for 2015. Any more discussion? Hearing none. Let's have a roll call vote.
Irma Archuleta,
Aye.
Virginia Baxter,
Aye.
Jeff Kellogg,
Aye.
Doug Otto,
Aye.
and Sunny Zia.
Aye.
And if I may, President Otto, the grand opening for GG is on February 17th at 10 a.m.
Okay. Thank you. 4.3, approval of recommendations from the Board of Trustees Ad Hoc Committee for communicating with the Long Beach Community College District constituencies. Is there a presentation, or we've had so many presentations on this? Is this just a discussion?
We have no presentation.
Okay. So I would entertain a motion to approve the recommendation, so it's on.
So moved.
Second.
Trustee Baxter won that one.
Okay.
Trustee Archuleta, it's the
Garcia.
second.
It doesn't matter.
You guys,
doesn't
look, you
matter,
guys, we can't fight over who seconds things. It's just, I'll do the best I can. It's ultimately in my discretion as to who I recognize. It's really important that we get through the agenda. So that's the way I heard it, see it. And so with that, I'll see, are there any questions on the approval?
I have a
Sure.
question and comment, please, President Otto. I have a problem with community meetings, which is on my edition on page 4, about trustees not holding community meetings less than, or 6 months before an election. My district is Long Beach City College Liberal Arts Campus. And so I see this as a real problem when I run for re-election in 2018, in that my opponent can say, look, she had a ribbon cutting, she had this, she had that. And so I really object to this inclusion in the communication. In case you wondered how I felt, I object to this section.
So you mean on page 3?
Well, I've got the didacted version, so it's under community meetings.
Right, okay.
Page 3.
Okay, that's fine. Any other comments?
I would, there's hardly ever any circumstance that I disagree with Trustee Baxter, but I would respectfully disagree, and this is something that we need to be mindful that we don't have the appearance that we're being political, especially before an election, and I would support the recommendation of staff and the committee to keep it as is. It's important that we be mindful of perception and not come across as there is a real or perceived conflict, especially with the hosting a committee meeting in a district that is up for election. In fact, some may argue we may want to consider more than 6 months, but I think 6 months is adequate. And I understand your concerns. I think that's, ribbon cutting is pretty standard, but just having community meetings with districts that are up for re-election can come across as political, and I would not support removing that language.
Trustee Otto, can I respond?
Trustee Baxter?
Yeah, well, maybe you were not in a heated campaign as I was.
Oh, I was.
At which I was accused of things I didn't do. And so this is my concern, is that someone will take this and say I violated our own policy. And so that is my concern. It says, striving, I should have gotten, I'm reading the wrong paragraph. No wonder I can't find it. In various neighborhoods of their district to be held in partnership with neighborhood groups and others. I had a meeting on this campus on November 11th, and obviously that doesn't pertain. But I don't want to not allow myself to hold meetings here, because it's a good place to have a meeting.
It's not a matter of not holding a meetings.
We got to do this according to Hoyle, so ask for recognition, and then Trustee Zia, please comment.
Sure. May I come on? It's about the timeline. It's pretty much a moratorium period is 6 months before. And we heard from members of the public, and I think it's important that we take their input seriously. And this was one of the issues that was raised that we need to be mindful of. It's only a six months before someone's re-election. We can have it in other districts, but I think it's very important that we...
I don't remember, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have spoken.
Wait.
I'm still talking.
Sure.
And I think it's important that we be mindful of that, that we don't give the perception. I also voiced my concerns with it. I think it's important that we just manage these delicate situations, especially in election cycles, very carefully. So it's okay to have those meetings, but it was just not in the election cycle 6 months before.
Okay,
the
then that
election.
means we can't have the ribbon cutting at PCC.
Whoa. The way we conduct these meetings, and always have, is you ask for recognition by the chair, and the chair will recognize you. You can't just...
I know, I'm sorry.
Okay. Were you finished?
This is just community meetings. It's not ceremonies, is my understanding, unless I'm misunderstanding the committee's recommendation. Yes, I'm finished. Thank you.
I can speak to what the recommendation was, at least in my mind, as a member of the committee, and that was, the idea was not to preclude anyone from having a political forum that they wanted to have on their own, but that what these community meetings were designed to do as part of the communication plan was to, over time, have the college go out and share information with people throughout Long Beach in all the trustee districts, but not as political meetings, just to go out and share information. And I think we've had one scheduled and take place. We've had no other ones even scheduled. And the reports back that I got from that meeting were that it was not a political meeting, that the people on the staff who attended gave presentations. There was no politics in it at all. But if a candidate or somebody that was going to run was going to have a meeting, then nobody from the staff would go out, and because that would obviously be engaging in political activities and engaging the staff in doing that, and that would not be correct anyway. I'm just telling you what my understanding of behind the recommendation was. So anyway, Trustee Kellogg, did you have your hand?
No, and my apologies. If there was a motion, I think there was a motion made. So, and I support the motion in that when this item came into this communication document at the very end, I looked at it and I thought, well, this could cause reverse of what good intentions sometimes, and that is that you don't know when and if you'll ever have a community meeting or a need for a community meeting. But to then put about the political cycle, and I will just remind everybody that this body operates regardless of the political cycles. The political cycles, elections, are outside of these chambers. We don't bring politics in, and I know that sometimes there's a fine line. But the reality is the business of the college goes on regardless of the election cycles. And to sit there and to say this based on someone's political agenda, political opinions, etc., I think was not a good idea to begin with. And then to go 6 months, I thought that was, where did 6 months come from? You don't even know who's running an election until the January filing period. Now, many people are running and people are aware of it, but I think if the motion was to make it for 60 days, then it's 60 days, and they usually have a little bit of a time at that point that you are so close to the local election for the community college board that having community meetings of any sort usually get a very political flavor. And years ago, we had some very difficult issues here. We had meetings here in this chamber, and it was strictly about the business of the college, but it had a lot of political overtones to it as well. So I think the motion is reasonable. It addresses what some people had some concern with, but...
Actually, just to be clear, the motion that's on the floor is to approve the report as it stands.
Okay, so there was no motion to...
No, there's been no other motions.
I thought, that's why I turned it over to you and said, did you make a motion to...
No, what I'd like to do is make.
Okay, well, if that motion was made, I'm supportive of it for the obvious reasons I just stated. And again, I would really caution people to try to find solutions to problems that haven't existed thus far. This came up in one of those, there was a meeting held and some people thought it had political overtones. And once again, that was to my point, you're suddenly trying to address issues that really, whether they exist in individual political agendas or thoughts, but I'm going to do the business of the college regardless of the election cycles. I've done it for years, and I know sometimes that can be challenging, but if that was the motion which I thought, the 6-month one I think is just not realistic, and I don't think it's of need. So if the motion was that I thought it was, that to move it to 60 days, then I'm supportive of it, if that was going to be the motion. Thank you, President Otto.
To clarify, yes, it's not. We only have a motion on the floor to approve the report as it stands. There have been no additional motions made by anybody, so that's where we are now. And are there any other comments?
Well, can the motion be amended?
Of course.
Sure.
Okay. Well, then, can we then amend the motion to say that we go to 60 days rather than 6 months?
And that's what I seconded.
Whoa. There's been a motion made to amend the report on the item with regard to community meetings to change the last sentence, which reads, and I quote, "A meeting in a particular district should not be scheduled within 6 months of a trustee election in that district," and to change that to 60 days instead of 6 months. Is there a second to that motion?
Yes, a second.
It's been moved and seconded. Let's talk about the amendment.
May I speak?
Sure.
Yeah. I think it's a serious mistake. We need to we need to be careful that we don't have the appearance. This is 2 months before an election, folks. That's not appropriate. It can come across as though we're using district dollars, taxpayer dollars, for an in-kind contribution, potentially. That's the perception. May not be real, but we just need to manage that perception. And I am adamant about being mindful of that and managing that. 6 months is reasonable. It could very well be a year. We can have community meetings in district areas of trustees that are not up for election. And I think it's a serious mistake for us to move that to a tighter window. 60 days before an election is right up against the election, and I would not support that.
Any other comments on the amendment? Hearing none, we will vote on the amendment. Roll call.
I'm just inserting the language of the amendment.
Okay,
Could you tell me what page that is on?
sure. That's on page 3. It's the 4th bullet down topically. It's the last sentence, and you are changing in the penultimate line of that section the words 6 months to 60 days, and that would be the only change.
And the category is under community
Meetings.
meetings. Thank you.
Do you want a copy of the report to have in front of you?
I think I've got it.
Got it?
now.
Okay, good. So if there are no more comments, then let's take a roll call vote on the amendment.
Okay, we have Irma Archuleta,
Aye.
Virginia Baxter,
Aye.
Jeff Kellogg, Doug Otto,
Aye.
and Sunny Zia.
Nay.
Now, we have the report as it stood with the exception of this amendment. Are there any other amendments or comments on the communications report?
I'm sorry, are you asking for the one that we just approved, or?
No, we've already approved that. We now
Right.
have the whole report back in front of us as amended. And my question is, are there any other comments on the report as it now stands?
Well, I think with the exception of the approved 60 days, that I think it was great work on your part, Trustee Otto, and especially the collegiality that you demonstrated throughout the process. So I wanted to commend you. And also our staff. You guys put a lot of hard work into it. I'm not in agreement with the 60 days, but I think the rest of it looks really good. It demonstrates that it's a significant improvement from the original document, and I just wanted to commend you. We heard a lot about provisions of the original document from the public, and I'm appreciative that you guys took that into consideration and incorporate into the document, and again with the exception of this latest change. But I just wanted to commend you, Trustee Otto, and our staff for your responsiveness to the input received by the public, and again, in particular, your collegiality in the process. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Hearing none, I'd have a roll call vote on the policy. Excuse me, not on the policy, on the report.
Irma Archuleta,
Aye.
Virginia Baxter,
Aye.
Jeff Kellogg, Doug Otto,
Aye.
and Sunny Zia.
I'm sorry, are we approving the report with this modification of 60 days? Is that what the motion is?
Yes.
That's part of it.
The board already approved
We already
of the
approved.
amendment.
Right.
Now you're voting for the entire report.
Nay.
Okay. The motion passes 4-1. We move on to 4.4, which is the revised board policy 2004, minutes and records of the Board of Trustees. This is the first reading of this amendment. It's a very slight amendment to the policy 2004, and I'm looking for that piece of paper that I Somebody give me one of yours.
You know what, I don't have it.
Yes, you do.
Okay.
Well, so it's a first reading. We're not asked to do anything. It will come back to us for approval at the February 23rd, 2016 board meeting. So let's leave it at that. We'll have opportunities to comment unless people want to comment on it now. Okay, first reading, moving on.